Two men read the same headline. The first saw another foreign conflict, none of his business. The other man saw the worldwide economy falter and how it affected him personally. One man consumes information, the other produces intelligence. Which one are you?
Russ, I read this headline about a month ago, right? U.S. and Israel strike Iran. U.S. and Israel strike Iran, right? I'm like, okay, think about it for like 2 seconds. I'm thinking, okay, that'll help secure Israel. That'll help secure the United States. That will bring stability to that region of the world, right? So a month ago, I think, that's it, boom, I scroll past it. A lot of things happen. Today, $4.09 a gallon, right, at the pump. $4.09. I had to fill my truck up twice this week. That's, I wish I would have seen this coming, right? I wish I would have seen that coming. I could have done something.
It's cutting into you for sure. So what we're talking about here is a couple of things. First, same headline, different man. Two guys. Both saw the same headline. Information told you, nuclear threat, stability in the region, way over there, no problems in the Middle East.
No problemos, man.
But intelligence told you that, this was more like a technology war. And the gap between those two readings is where sovereignty lives. So here's what I'm talking about. Two men, same headlines, 4 words. U.S., Israel, strike, Iran. That's it. Same 4 words. Only how can two guys misunderstand 4 words? Well, the first guy, he saw it as a foreign conflict, nuclear threat, cable news panels arguing about escalation and who's right and who's wrong. He scrolled past it, checked his email, thought, this is none of my business. Literally, not in my business. The second guy, he read the same 4 words and he started pulling on threads. Within an hour, he knew that Iran had struck 3 Amazon data centers, 2 in UAE and 1 in Bahrain. He read where there was drones and swarms of drones attacking all kinds of targets in ships in the Straits of Hormuz and in other areas across the Middle East. He knew that banks across the Gulf went offline, payment platforms crashed, enterprise software froze, the ride share stuff went down so nobody could get around. So there's so many different things happened that this guy knew that, there was a published list of American technology companies, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Palantir, Oracle, all of those.
On a hit list.
On a hit list. Okay. He knew that 17 submarine cables carrying the majority of all internet access and traffic between Europe and Asia and Africa ran right through what is now an active war zone. Same headlines. One man saw politics. The other guy saw supply chain of digital economy under fire. That's the difference between two men, and that's intelligence. Not intelligence in the IQ sense. It's intelligence in the operational sense. One consumed information, and the other produced intelligence, and the gap between those two readings will define which men navigate and which men get navigated over the next decade.
So this is the Second Half Man Show. Welcome back. If you like the topic that we're discussing today, which is intelligence versus consumed information, please hit that like button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the show. More importantly, make sure you subscribe so that you can get a notification telling you about the next Second Half Man Show. We drop one every Tuesday. Also, keep in mind the Second Half Man Show channel. You can find that on YouTube. That'll give you access to all the shows that we've dropped since January 1st of this year, along with all the shorts. So with that, let's get back to it. Russ, what's the pattern?
The information layer told you that this was about nuclear weapons. Every major outlet ran the same frame.
Yep.
Iran's nuclear program, Israeli security, American foreign policy. Well, that's just the surface. Underneath that, underneath the headline, on March 1st, Iranian drones hit 3 AWS data centers, 2 in the United Arab Emirates and 1 in Bahrain. And these were not random strikes. Iran's Revolutionary Guard explicitly stated that they targeted these facilities because they hosted AI systems used by U.S. military. So this was the first time in history that a commercial data center was deliberately struck as a military target. Right?
So real quick before you go on, so I'm looking at that when I see that in the news, like a regular guy, and we're thinking, oh, the Iranians are crazy. They're just shooting bombs at all their neighbors too, not understanding the significance of what you're saying, right?
Well, that's just about what every major news outlet is pretty much saying. I'm not a political guy, but even our head dude was saying, "Hey, who knew they were just going to start, spraying stuff all over their, against their neighbors?" That was crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the real problem. So what broke? What broke was the banking system across the Gulf went down. Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Emirates and MBD, Abu Dhabi Bank, all of them, their platforms failed. Data management companies reported outages. AWS told its customers to consider migrating their data out of the Middle East entirely.
Wow.
Amazon waived entire month of March charges for affected regions because the damage was so severe. And, that in itself isn't bad enough. But what it revealed was, a couple of things. One, look, the cloud's not in the sky. It is in buildings, specific buildings in specific countries connected by physical cables that run through narrow waterways controlled by governments with competing interests. Both the Straits of Hormuz and the Red Sea are now in an active conflict zone.
Yeah.
That's never happened before in the history of the world. And billions of dollars in planned AI infrastructure investment in the Gulf is now frozen for who knows how long.
For most guys, I'm going to assume that most guys, we don't even think about what the cloud is. We're like, hey, it's stored in the cloud, right? The information's up there. I pay $7.99 a month to keep my data where it's safe in the cloud. And now you're telling me it ain't up there, right?
No, it's in some warehouse that's not really protected by very much.
No bueno, man.
No bueno. So here's why it really matters.
Yeah.
The man in Denver running a plumbing company, he does not have data in the Middle East, but he does have software that he uses to schedule his crews, processes invoices, manages books. It runs on servers owned by only a handful of companies. The dentist in Atlanta, he's in the same boat, right? He stores his patient records in the cloud. The insurance agent in Dallas runs quoting platform on infrastructure he's never really thought about. Yeah. But none of those men experienced an outage from this specific attack. But every one of them learned something if they were paying attention. That's their infrastructure, their livelihoods run on and sits in buildings, and those buildings are no longer untouchable. What are you doing about that?
So what's the trap?
Oh man, so the trap is outsourced awareness. You outsource your business infrastructure to the cloud, and you outsourced your understanding of the world to cable news without even examining what's actually driving events. And you outsourced your sense of security to the assumption that these systems you depend on are permanent. 3 layers of outsourced awareness, and the man standing on all 3, he doesn't see any of them.
Yeah, I would have to say that I'm guilty of exactly what you described. I have outsourced my business infrastructure. I have outsourced my understanding because I watched world news to try to get a handle on what's going on. And then my sense of security is that information, for example, that I put in the cloud is secure, that it's going to be there. It's not a building that can be touched, right?
Yeah.
So
look, you're not alone. Look, we right now have access to more information than any other generation of men before us. We have less clarity than our fathers did because when he was reading one newspaper at the kitchen table, he wasn't suffering all that noise that we do. It comes at us all day long. Headlines, notifications, alerts, opinions.
Bleep, bleep.
None of it connected, none of it filtered, through the question of what does this really matter for me in my life? And the man who read Iran war and scrolled past it, he wasn't uninformed. He was overwhelmed. He's drowning in information, starving for intelligence.
So, Russ, what is the sovereign solution?
The sovereign solution. Well, in my upcoming book, The Second Half Manifesto, How to Stay Dangerous When AI and Society Want You Obsolete, we talk about element 9 of the Sovereign's Code, work the squeeze, right? That's systematically applying pressure to every experience, both success and failure, and that's how raw data becomes actionable sovereign wisdom. And I almost missed this one myself. The Iran headline came across my feed on a Tuesday morning, and I read it the same way just about everybody else did. Military strike in the Mideast, geopolitical tension, move on. And it wasn't until I asked what was underneath that I found the data center strikes, the submarine cables, the target list with every cloud provider my business touches. The same headline, I just pressed harder on it. Like the second man in this story, he didn't have access to classified briefings, didn't have a security clearance or a PhD in geopolitics. He had a headline and a willingness to squeeze it. He pressed on the word strike and he found the data centers. And he pressed on data centers and he found the companies that own them. And he pressed on those companies and found that the software his own business runs on. So 4 steps from the headline to personal relevance. No special tools, no insider knowledge, just pressure applied to raw information until it yielded something that only he could extract, because only he knows the specific dependencies on his specific life. And that's the difference between information and intelligence. Information is what the headline gave you. Intelligence is what you produce when you refuse to stop at the surface. Every man has access to the same information. The one who squeezes it becomes dangerous. The one who swallows it whole remains at the mercy of whoever framed it.
So what's our move this week?
Our move this week. Okay. Pick one headline. Don't read the article. And then run it through these 3 questions. 1, what's actually being fought over? 2, who benefits from the way the story is being framed? 3, how does this connect to something I depend on? Do those 3 things, and you'll come up with some real intelligence. The full drill, step-by-step actions is in this week's dispatch.
That sounds like something that I can handle. I'm going to look for the article, go to my favorite large language model. I'm going to type it in the text box, apply that question to the article, get the information, do that with all 3 of them. That's absolutely something that I think I could easily do and will help me move from the information man to the man with intelligence, right?
Yes, sir.
So again, let me ask you this, Russ. Do you have anything else to say before we close out today?
Just one last thing, one truth. Every man satisfies himself with the headline. The sovereign presses until the headline confesses what it was hiding. Try it this week.
Once again, this is a Second Half Man show. If you like the subject we discussed today, please hit that like button, leave us a comment, some questions. Don't forget to subscribe. The shows drop every Tuesday. Also, don't forget about our Second Half Man show channel. You can find that on YouTube. Russ?
If you want to go a little deeper, subscribe to our newsletter, The Second Half Man Dispatch. Comes out every Sunday morning, straight to your inbox. You can sign up for that at secondhalfman.com/newsletter, secondhalfman.com/newsletter, or hit the link below.
Again, this is Second Half Man show. I'm 601.
I'm Russ Borden.
Stay dangerous.